Hey, how's it going, guys? So here we are, back for more Python BACnet stacks. What you see here, this is something new that I'm kind of playing around with, which is pretty cool. I definitely recommend anyone that's playing around with AI. I am using Cursor right now, which is an AI IDE. So at the moment, I'm playing around with this open fault detection diagnostics platform and just letting AI build it. So I think the future is AI will build everything, and then we just write specs, kind of like how the engineer specifies HVAC to be automated. I think the future of software engineering will be software engineers writing a spec for how AI um, will write software for us, build systems. So this is pretty cool. It's like right now, um, Cursor AI IDE is going nuts on building me a web app in the Fast API framework for open fault detection diagnostics, and it's doing a bunch of React front end stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's amazing what you can get for $20 these days. So maybe I'll show you a little bit more of that. But what's cool too is this is actually a fork of the same VS Code. So the same thing we've been using here. The Cursor AI IDE is VS Code. I think just a fork of it. So it has the same like features. I just have like a white light feature. So I've just been playing around with this lately. Vibe coding web apps, pretty neat. And this will be something that has BACnet built into it, Home Assistant integration, front end. So maybe I'll show a little bit more sneak peek of this later on, but it's still kind of primitive at the moment. But it just it just goes nuts on what it built for me. And dang, cool. Keep all. It's really neat too. Like you can go into here and you can specify Cursor settings and then into models. And right now I'm on Gemini Pro, but you can select all these different models to use, which is ChatGPT, Sonic, Opus. So a lot of these things, a lot of different models that you can use. Grok code, maybe I should try that one. But you can just select them, any one that you want to use. Composer, which I think is built into Cursor, I think. And then it'll just go, it's just right in auto mode. It just goes automatically, selects all these models, and it just goes nuts for whatever you're trying to build. So it's super cool. Okay, so where were we? So we were not getting too sidetracked here. Python BACnet Stacks Playground. So stepping back more or less a year or two in vibe coding, just manually copy paste into the browser. Just some of our apps. So we're kind of plowing through this stuff. Our BACnet read multiple apps, our BACnet read write release apps, and then here's our priority array, which yesterday we submitted the GitHub issue for, I think, maybe a bug in back0. So like the little backstories of back0 and bacpypes have gotten pretty big updates over the past year or two. That it's gone to all async driven code. So like all of the code that we've been playing around with, it's all async IO, and you have to do like these async functions, and then when you have to await and a request or whatever. So that's all new. It didn't have this async IO thing running in the background. So the legacy versions of bacpypes and back0 didn't have that. So there could, when they got these mega updates pretty recently, last year or two, some of this stuff could be not well tested yet. So, and it helps to find bugs. So here we are. We're on we're on day 20 for our theory lectures, and maybe we should just get into servers. I'm kind of wondering if we're just plowing through this information a little faster than I thought. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with like running like a Raspberry Pi in Linux or anything, but maybe I'll just pan my camera here. So this is my test bench. If you guys see this, a couple little Raspberry Pis right there. And this is my server. These are so I think this Raspberry Pi here is what we'll SSH into for the Linux command line. And then this is also, oh come on, this server right here. This is also something I'm playing around with running. The cursor was going nuts with building software on this directly, which is pretty cool. This is my little Linux server running Linux Mint. So definitely get into Linux. Everything runs on Linux if you're into the IoT world and software engineering. Really good skill sets. Like I said, I might try and go for a Linux IT certification through the Linux Foundation maybe this year. Okay, so where were we? So we can SSH into our devices. So I might try this once. See if I can SSH. Maybe I'll just do it through here. You can also do it through PowerShell too, which may not really recommend, but you can also SSH through the IDE. So if I do SSH, I think I was on here. Yeah, Boss Pi. Okay, so this is like a blank Raspberry Pi. So like right now you can use Raspberry Pi desktop on there, or you can just so this is just like through SSH, just Linux command line. So this is a brand new, freshly imaged Raspberry Pi, which are surprisingly really easy to image these days. So this Raspberry Pi Imager is actually a really cool tool. So Raspberry Pi, this is their imaging tool right now. So, and it's so easy to actually image one of these Raspberry Pis. You just select your model, and then you can add in options for, it downloads the image for you onto a micro SD card, and then it can even, you can do username and password SSH access, or you can do a private key. So like a private key is like the same thing that encrypts like web traffic. So you can also use that for your SSH username and password, and it's really easy now to do that all through here. So highly recommend, get really familiar with playing around with the Raspberry Pis and imaging them and how SSH works, this Linux command line thing. So this is a freshly imaged Raspberry Pi, so let's spin up a BACnet server. I don't even know if we have Python. Oh, we do have Python installed. So if you just type in Python, usually it comes with some Raspberry Pis. Let's see. So I think what we'll want to run is a program called tmux. I think we can do apt get tmux. I have to Google this. Tmux install raspi. So this is just a tool that maybe let's run some updates. Checking for updates. So the Linux operating system is updating itself right now, checking for updates, and then we'll install this program called tmux, which is a way to run Python scripts on a Raspberry Pi or a Linux device after you close out of the SSH session, that the script stays running. But it's only like something for test bench purposes, like if the Raspberry Pi reboots or if it if something happens to it. We'll get into this a little bit later, but there's more whoops, sorry, this is wrong. we'll get into this a little bit later, but there's other ways to run Python scripts on Raspberry Pis and edge devices long term, better than Tmux. But so as we get into the advanced options down here, there's better ways to run scripts long term called with a Linux service called systemd, and then Docker is really cool too. So right now we'll just kind of cheat and use Tmux. Okay, so right now it's installing Tmux. Give it a yes. I'll show you what this looks like in a second. So like what I'm saying is like when I run my BACnet scan tool and just my local test bench here, search. So right now we ran this tool a whole bunch of times. Like there's other Raspberry Pis out there like running this script. There's the Python script is running on this Raspberry Pi with a program called Tmux, because like when you run a program here remotely through SSH on the Raspberry Pi or Linux device, as soon as you close out of your SSH session, so does your Python script. So Tmux is a way to let it run long term. Okay, so that installs. So we have to do a Python virtual environment. It says Python 3-m -env. So this is going to install a virtual environment, which is just a way to install bacpypes. Okay, so if we go to bacpypes 3. Okay, so right now we're on bacpypes 3, the repo for the BACnet servers. And then in the samples, we're going to go to this mini device.py. So this is a little BACnet server. So it'll host a read only. It'll host 4 points. So it'll be an analog value, a binary value, a commandable analog value, and a commandable binary value. And then we'll run it like this, and then it'll pop up on our BACnet scan tool. So if I go like this, okay, so right now we have to go to, we'll use let's see, so I copied it, I think. Copy from GitHub. So I copied the Python script, so I'm gonna use a program called Nano. We have to create the Python file first, so we can do touch, what do they call this one? Maybe I'll just do this. Copy this. Mini device revisited.py. So touch is the command to create a file in Linux. If I list it, here's our virtual environment and our mini device.py, then all nano mini device.py. Nano is a text editor in Linux. So I'll copy this, and then I'm just going to right click paste. Voila, paste our file, which should all be in there. Okay, so then I'm going to do a Control O, enter, which is right. And then I think I can just Control X. So then I can even cat the mini device revisited if I want to. Okay, that looks good. So cat is just to print our file. So then I can do a program. Let's just do enable our virtual environment. env bin activate. So you see this little symbol pop up. So like when we did the this command right here, this built our virtual environment, which then this command here enabled it right here. So now I can tell my virtual environment's enabled from this little symbol. So now we can install bacpypes. So here on here we just have to, I think it says like where to how to pip install it. Maybe that got removed. So we just have to install bacpipes with pip. Python package manager pip install bacpypes3 and ifadder. This is a networking library for Python that helps Backpipes find our NIC card automatically. Okay, so it's collecting backpipes from PyPy. All right, so I think that worked. So, okay, so then we verified that we copied our file, so we should be able to just go right here. Maybe let's copy the command. So this was the command to copy it. So this is the name is Ben's server test, and this will be the BACnet instance ID and debug. So we could even just call this as, you can call this anything. Maybe I'll open up a text file. We can just say my first BACnet server. Okay, so if we go here, then run it, can't open mini device. Oh, must have the wrong name in there. So do it the old-fashioned way. So if we just you can copy in here too. Remember, we're using this tool right here was earlier videos. This is if you reference earlier videos, we downloaded a tool from the Microsoft App Store called Windows Terminal that makes it look like Linux. So mini device revisited, tab complete. For some reason that command and the right from GitHub is wrong. Okay, there we go. And it looks like it's running. I don't see any crashes. So then we should be able to, so this is running on the Raspberry Pi. This isn't running on my computer locally. We're just SSH'd into the device. Then I should be able to go through my Windows computer, my BACnet scanner, and run the search button. Oh, there it is. My first BACnet server. And then this is our two read-only, analog value, binary value, and commandable points. So maybe we'll play around with this a little bit more throughout the week. So this is probably enough playing around with BACnet for a while. What I used to do in the field that was really fun is I used to run mini device.py on my Windows computer, and then make my Windows computer show up on a BACnet scanner on the building automation system in the field. So like the Jace, I would do a BACnet discovery and then discover my laptop running the mini device. And but that was an old legacy version of Backpipes. It was a couple of years ago. But I imagine it still works. So maybe we could test that sometimes too. So pretty cool. So the problem is when we close out of here, so our Python script will die. So that's where this program called tmux comes in handy. So if we go tmux, type in tmux, and then I'm just curious if that killed our script. I'm gonna hit scan again. That might have killed our script. Yes, it did. Okay, so our script stopped, but this is a tool that it'll run long term. So we have to enable our virtual environment again, and then just do, I don't think it'll remember the commands. So Python, and start typing, tab complete, and this should still work. There we go. So now I just have to run it again through tmux. But remember, this is not a tool to use in the field long term as a production app. It's only for testing on my test bench. Okay, so now if I'll exit tmux, which will keep this script running. I have to do a control BD. Oops, that didn't work. Control BD. Okay, so I detached from my tmux session. I'm still SSH'd in here, so I'm going to close out of that. And now this should be running on the Raspberry Pi. Yep, there we go. So cool. So there we go. So we'll play around with what the we'll play around a little bit with like the algorithm running in here. So right now this analog value being in the Python script, it should be changing. So like here, this is the analog value, how you define it in Python in bacpypes, and it should update the value every whatever the sleep interval is defined, every 5 seconds. So it should update this value as it'll keep on iterating through these different values right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 every 5 seconds. Yep, okay, so it updated once already. It was a 2 before. So it's just like the most primitive algorithm that you could ever use for testing purposes. Eventually, at the end of this course, this is what will be our weather app. So like I said, our final app will be turning mini-device.py into a weather station. So we'll use another script that retrieves data from the internet from OpenWeatherMap API based on geo coordinates, and then we'll have web weather as the analog value. And why it's not switching very fast, maybe we'll have to look into that. For whatever reason, my tool is going really slow here. And it almost looked like it crashed. Weird, I've never seen it do that before, so. Alright, so it already switched to value 4. Refresh. Weird, never seen, wonder why this is taking so long. Maybe we'll have to get into Wireshark. Weird, but it is changing values. Okay, so enough of that. So we'll be looking at mini device Pi this week a little bit more, so maybe we can pound out our theory lecture for today. I think, whoops. So here's the same scripts here for the fake VAV, fake air handling unit, and guess what? This is just a variation of mini-device.py that is just emulating point names for a VAV box or an air handler. So that's all these fake devices are. It's just a variant of the mini-device.py, which we'll be playing around with more. Okay, so here's our theory lecture for today. Built-in functions, control structures this week. Goal: Python's most useful built-in functions for working with iterables: min, max, sorted, sum, enumerate, and zip. Use loops to transform data, no comprehensions. Python provides many built-in functions, min and max, to return smallest and largest values. Some sorted returns a sorted list. Sum, enumerate, zip, which we've seen a little bit before. So this is just how you zip through data. Range loop, which we've seen this before. So our older lectures, we did dictionary data structures, and then we used the dot items to add new things to the. So so we've seen this. Okay, so let's go for our micro exercises for today. So I think they're just having us use min, max, sorted, which shouldn't be too hard to do. Script lesson. Alright, so get rid of that. So create a list, values, and use the sum, min, and max to compute total. Alright, so pretty easy stuff here. Okay, so total equals values sum, I think. Actually, maybe we do sum and then pass in values. That's what it's supposed to be. And then we can do sum, or no, we do min dot values. And then this would be max dot values. And then we can do print total minimum maximum. Python script lesson. There we go, 23, 1, and 9. Sum 1 and 9. Pretty easy. Okay, use the zip function to combine two lists into a dictionary using a for loop. Oh boy. Okay, so if we do this, so then we could do, let me see if I remember how to do this. So we could just use, I'll just call it final equals dictionary, like dictionary. And I think we could just do I might have to cheat here. Where do they do the zip? Okay, so this is how they did it. So they pass in the, okay, so see how they do for key value in zip in here. So that's what we'll have to do is, whoops. Okay, so we can do for key value in zip names and readings, then print key and value. Okay, so then we could even do then we could do final, and I think we do like this, key equals value. And once that is all done, we could say print final. Alright, so that worked. Pretty cool. Kind of fun to do this stuff all by hand without AI doing it all for you. So this is how you programmatically, so we have two lists of data, kind of like the array in Python. We defined a dictionary to do key and values, and then we iterate through the two lists, and then we created our dictionary programmatically. Kind of fun. I love that stuff. these concepts were really hard to me, a couple of years ago. So if it's really hard to you right now, don't worry, because it will come. Write a loop that generates the cubes of numbers 1 through 5 and appends to a new list, finding the results that are 100 or less. Okay, so results equal a list. So for range, for I in range 1 through 5, I think. Print I. Let's see what this prints out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll have to do 6. Okay, so that prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then we would do the cube is just I times I think. So we would do if, let's just do cube equals I times I. Then if cube is less than value of 100, results dot append cube. I think this should do it. Print results. I'm gonna get that right. I'm just gonna Google it. It's amazing what you can do through Google search now. It's a wonderful world of AI. Oh, cube. I knew I was doing something wrong there. So this is, there we go, I to the third power. Duh. There we go. So it did not do that that last value. Yeah, I discarded that guy. 5 cubed. Okay. Knew something didn't smell right. I think that does it for all, guys. So we'll keep playing around with our theory lectures, of course, and then using our BACnet scan tools. And then as we get into algorithms a little bit more in the course, which hopefully wasn't be too hard, because that's when, for me, it gets really hard at the algorithm stuff. And then we can start baking algorithms into our BACnet server points. So like we can be see this little algorithm. So this is what it should be doing. So we can have whatever points, data that we want to represent here in our in here. We can just, that'll be a little algorithm for us to have fun and play around with. So that's all I have for today, guys. Hope you're enjoying the series, and let me know if you want any more insights on how to set up like even Raspberry Pi and Linux. I think that is a whole can of worms itself, but remember we used Windows App Store, Windows Terminal. So this was kind of a cool app. Definitely get this for Windows Terminal, which is this for me. It turns PowerShell into something that looks like more like Linux. So, all right. Until then, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.